Hello, Dan. How are you doing? Welcome to
Hello,
Geek Curio.
hello there. Thank you for having me.
So, how are you today?
I'm not too bad. It's just been a normal day for me today. Not doing a lot. How about you? How are you doing?
Oh, busy day at work and busy day now at the other at the second job, which is this. Thank you for coming on the show today. And we've been talking on Discord and I've been following you on Twitter as of today as well. So, but I've
Yep.
been looking at the work that you do, and you are quite a game workshop aficionado. Would that be fair to say?
I'd agree with that. I'd definitely say that's true.
Yeah. Your work's absolutely fantastic, and I'm absolutely enamored with what you've sent me. But the question that I would like to ask is, how did you originally get into the hobby in the first place?
Oh wow. This is it's a very typical story. It's just yes, you're in school. Someone brings in a White Dwarf magazine. You go, hey, that looks pretty cool. What's this? What are those cool things? Those called Space Marines. Those look really awesome. And you read it up from there, and then you instead of buying Space Marines, you buy an Eldar jetpack, and it all just stems from there.
As you do.
There, really. Yeah, as you do. You buy yourself an Eldar jetpack, you paint it up really badly. I don't actually know where it is anymore. It's gone somewhere. And yeah, ever since then, it's just developed further into one of the major things. One of the major reasons I don't have any money, to be honest.
They do call it the plastic crack, don't they? Or chasing the resin.
Yes, they yes they do. It's a very good reason for that.
So, just to ask a little bit more about what you're doing with the Warhammer side. I mean, you said that you play AOS and 40k as well. Um, is it just playing or painting? Well, obviously the painting, but are you more of a
Yeah.
painter player or?
I'm more of a player. Despite the fact I started doing the hobby properly in 2006, I didn't start painting until 2017. So most of the time I've been playing with plastic.
Mhm.
I didn't start painting until the first tournament, the first and so far only tournament I went to, which was the 2017 uh, one of the grand tournament heats for Age of Sigmar. Painting an Iron Jaws. I mean, you have to have it fully painted.
Yeah.
So I pretty much had to force myself to paint, and then I got into it, and I haven't stopped. It's just carried on and on and on and on until I've gotten to the point where I'm at now,
And have you
which
been painting a lot during the lockdown then?
yes, tons of random little projects here and there. I finished the Salamander's army in about a month. I think it was a month, maybe longer, maybe shorter. Can't remember how long. Um, what else is so much stuff? I mostly paint Space Marines. You can see from most of the pictures I say it's
Yeah.
like is it a Space Marine? I've probably painted it.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to touch back on you mentioning the salamanders there. That's the green ones that you sent. Like I say, apologies.
yes,
I like I said before, I have the blinkers on when it comes to 40k. I tend to only do space walls. I've dabbled a bit in the Eldar and everything, but
that's fair.
space walls are my boys. But yeah,
Yeah,
the salamanders. You sent me some pictures, which I'll bring up on the screen. Um,
yeah.
I love that green that you're using. That to me doesn't look like your typical salamander army. What have you done different there?
That is an attempt at doing a metallic army. It's the first one that I've actually done, and that is quite that. The models are sprayed lead belcher or any particular metal from any different range, I suppose.
Mhm.
And then it's just using warp lightning,
The
and that's
contrast.
how you get that's yeah, it's just contrast on metallic paint, and it works really well. It's really simple. The details are pretty much done,
Mhm.
and it is just a case of picking out everything. That's all it is. I can paint a squad of ten guys in about 5 hours.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, the effect I think is really, really good, and it does look like you've done the edge highlighting um, on the model as well, or is that just a contrast at work as well?
I think that's the contrast at work. I mean, before doing the initial step of the contrast, if you do a dry brush of a brighter silver as well,
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
really helps. That really helps because that way it does the highlighting job for you as well.
that's handy. That's good to know.
It just makes life so much easier.
Warp Lightning is one of the contrast paints that I've got hold of, but I haven't actually been playing around with it a lot. Um,
It's a very nice green.
well, let's say when I saw the picture, it really stood out, and it's a beautiful green, and I love what you did there.
Thank you.
What other armies have you been playing with, or painting, should I say, or
Uh,
both?
I'm paid. I've been I haven't done any gaming since February,
Hmm.
unfortunately, due to everything that's going on. So unfortunately, I can't. I've mostly been playing with another Space Marine army, which is purple, which don't have a name. I have a White Scars army, which is one of which are white. So I've learned to paint white recently, and that's actually really easy now. I can do that in not a lot of time. When it comes to me and painting, I pride myself on how fast I can be,
Hmm.
rather than just the best work. Because out of many of the works that you see out there on Twitter and whatnot, my work in many respects, if you look at it really closely, you can see there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors and whatnot. It's more for the sake of I managed to kick it out in this amount of time, and it looks fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I say, I didn't go in and look in detail. I mean, I just looked at it and I saw I saw what you did, and it looked really, really good. And a couple of weeks back, do you know Gorilla with a Brush, Alan O'Brien?
Yes.
Yeah, I was speaking to him, and he will get a mini, and I think he normally spends about between 4 and 6 weeks on one mini, and that's
Yeah.
purely
Jesus.
because he is a perfectionist. He's the one who says, if I have an army on the table, I don't want it to look good at far and far away, but I want to pick it up. But I don't see. I think you've just basically proved that it can look absolutely brilliant from far away. Um,
Yeah.
and I think you might be a little bit harsh on yourself because, like I say, we are our own worst critics. You probably will notice the flaws or mistakes, but to me, as someone else just looking at your work, it looks really, really nice.
I appreciate that.
Um, with Age of Sigma, where have you been experimenting there then?
I've been doing little things here and there, mostly deciding upon the next army I'm going to do fully. And I was going to not do a Lumineth, which is the Avenue Elves. I was originally not going to do it. I just kept looking at the box thinking, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. It's in my cart. I bought it. What have I done? So and then just like, well, it looks like I'm doing it now.
I did
This
notice.
is.
No,
Hmm? No, you gone.
no, I did notice one of the pictures you sent me looked like a Lumineth. I haven't looked at them too much. I remember the High Elves from long ago.
Yes.
And thankfully, they've actually brought out the new elves with a word that I can actually pronounce because the Wood Elf one I can't remember. The
Oh
Sylvaneth, is
God.
it?
Yes. Yes. Sylvaneth. With all the old school Thor spirits and whatnot,
Yeah.
which are now their own game.
At least it's something I can pronounce. And the Lumineth one I
Yeah.
really like. And you did quite a lot of metallics and colour on there, didn't you?
Yes, the Light of Elfarian is the hollow armor, and that was probably one of the most intimidating models I've ever had to paint because just the amount of detail on it, how crisp it is. Like if you put too much paint on it, you're going to obscure it in the model. So to actually get as much detail done, and that model took me 2 days, and for me that's a long time.
Yeah.
2 days for me is like for some other people weeks, and to get it done into the level I did, I'm really happy with it as well. To get it done to that level, I'm quite pleased with it. It is probably one of the best things I've painted.
Have you finished the Lumineth box then?
I've done the spear elves. I've done the light. I've got the cavalry to do. The only thing is painting mounts like horses and whatnot. Something I've always struggled with. So I'm probably going to do them not anytime soon. Probably a couple of weeks time, just so I can actually get my head around painting mounts. I've never been able to make it look good.
Yeah, I found that hard as well. A little bit of backstory of me, I've been doing it for 20 years. But I only
Yeah,
really got back into it around about the same time as you, so 2016, 2017.
yeah.
And I found that I really struggled with skin, so hence the reason why I went Order of Death. Because I thought
Flash.
it's like I can't. I was just like really critical of how I painted skin, so I thought I know I'll just get an army that has no skin at all.
I know your pain because for the longest time, it was just if it involved flesh, I wouldn't touch it. I
Yeah,
just wouldn't bother at all. It's like we're putting helmets on space runs. Everyone's got to have helmets. I don't have to paint flesh. I don't want to paint any heads. I don't want to paint any. And if I can have the option not have flesh, it's not having flesh. Easy as that. But I one stage pretty much forced myself to do it by painting up an ogre army
hmm
and managed. Ogres are brilliant to paint, even if you hate flesh, because
yeah,
all the areas are massive.
hmm
So it's really easy to do compared to most things, and you can use the techniques you do on them and eventually essentially miniaturize it, or a miniature of all things, of course. And it just gets easier and easier the more you do it. And forcing yourself to do an army like that I think if you hate flesh, try painting ogres because it does really help.
I've got a an Orc Blood Bowl team, and I got myself an ogre to go in that. Have you ever done
Oh, love
Blood Bowl at all then?
Blood Bowl. I mean, I play 40k in AOS the most, but Blood Bowl is actually my favorite Games Workshop game
Oh,
ever. Yeah, it's to me, it's the best one ever made. There's no other competition really.
excellent. What teams do you play as?
Oh god. I have an elf team. I have an orc team. There's a human team somewhere. There's a vampire team somewhere. Uh, what don't I play really? Probably the question you should ask. I played a lot of it tabletop, especially with a group of friends of mine who, for the most part, when I first joined their little group, all of them aside from me been playing for over 10 years. So I was like, I've got no experience in here. I'm going to get clubbed like a seal. So, but that was a lot. It was a lot of fun. Blood Bowl was great, and it is sometimes it is a bit anger-inducing because when dice go bad
Yeah,
in Blood Bowl, dice really go bad. So you absolutely get destroyed sometimes, and it does kind of suck. But that's quite rare, really. In the game itself, it's just the tactics behind it, the thought you have to put into it. It's just a lot of fun. And when things go wrong, it's funny. It's just funny when things go wrong.
it is. It's just like a comedy of errors when I play. I've only played 3 games, and the thing that I love about it is I tend to have a little bit of a low attention span. So the fact that I can get through a game within 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour tops, is a real big bonus for me. With 40k, it gets to the point where if I'm playing quite a large army, like 1,000 points, I'll get into about turn 3, I've lost interest, and I'm starting to sacrifice troops like anything.
Yeah. I used when I was playing 40k, first playing 40k, I used to struggle quite a lot. I used to only play about 1,000-point games, and sometimes I would be like, and to end, so I'm just going to move my dudes towards you. You're going to charge. I used to play Talron the first time I was actually properly played.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, what's the easiest way of getting Tal killed? Just move them towards the Corn Berserkers. Charge the Corn Berserkers, it'll be fine. it'll be fine, guys. What can go wrong? Oh, wait, we're dead. Oh, okay. Well, at least I get to go home then.
Yes. Yeah, that sadly ended up being mine as well. So apart from Blood Bowl, and obviously I'm really glad that you like Blood Bowl because I play. I know a little bit more, so I can interact with a lot of things. But is there any other Games Workshop games that you play as well? Have you done the Black Fortress, Shadespire?
I've played some Blackstone Fortress here and there with a few friends of mine. Shadespire and whatnot is something I really wanted to get into, but unfortunately my local area between it never really happened. So sadly I couldn't play a lot of it, despite the fact that as a game it's really good.
Yeah, everyone says really good things about it. There's a guy at my work who that's what he plays.
I don't blame him because it's a really fantastic game. It's really tightly designed. It's a lot of fun. Most of the egregious things that happened in the first edition of the game, where you would literally have decks of I'm going to stand right at the back and draw cards to win, so they're all gone now.
Yeah.
So now you actually play the game to win, which is quite nice.
Excellent. And do you ever venture outside of Game Workshop at all? Do you ever look at the other minis or other games?
I used to be a War Machine player.
All right.
So back during when War Machine was in its second edition, now in its third, I've not touched it since second. But I used to play second edition War Machine, which was a good laugh. There's always something satisfying about throwing steam-powered robots into people. Let's be fair. There's always something hilarious about that. Painted up a World War II Italian army for Bolt Action, which is something that my local gaming group's going to be playing at some stage whenever we meet up again after all this is over.
I'm just going to ask about what sort of materials do you like using? I mean, you obviously touched on contrast earlier, the contrast paints for DW. Do you have quite a large paint collection, or do you tend to stick with the same sort of palettes? Is there any sort of techniques that you want to learn eventually or have mastered?
Before I got my mentality of painting things quickly, I've got tons of paint, and I've still got tons that I've not used that are probably somewhere new in part somewhere. But so I've got tons of colours to choose from. But before I figured out that with less colours you need to paint your miniatures. The quicker they'll be done.
Yes, that's true.
which if you ever want to speed paint, just take your colours. If you have to use at least 5 different reds, narrow it down to at least 2, and you get the same result. It'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. It will work just fine. If you're going to be speed painting an army, you have to get into the mindset of, I'm not going to win a golden demon. I'm not entering golden demon at all. I'm not entering any painting competition. I'm not doing anything like that. I want an army that looks good on the table to play a fully painted army. That's the aim you want.
Mm-hmm. Dare I ask what type of brushes you like to use? Are you a fan of the Citadel paintbrush ones, or do you?
I just use the Citadel ones. I've actually not experimented with paintbrushes that much.
Mm-hmm.
I stick with what I know and just go. Yeah, it works for me. I can't say if they're good brushes or not. I've not used any other brushes. I can say so.
And out of the minis that you've painted over the years, is there any particular ones that stand out that you really enjoyed painting, or any favourite ones that you have? Is there any you like to show off?
Well, I really like painting Space Marines. They are a lot of fun to paint.
You have to paint my Space Marines. I hate painting them. They just.
It's funny you mentioned Space Wolf. I actually have some Space Wolf somewhere. I couldn't find any pictures.
Oh, nice.
But I like to painting with Space Marines of both Loyalist and Chaos kinds. Well, they're just a lot of fun to do. Painting Tower's fun. Tower a lot of fun to paint. I think it's easier for me to name things I don't enjoy painting, to be honest.
Oh, you can do that then. That's probably something that would be interesting. I'm interested to know what it is.
Yeah, the one thing I hate painting more than anything else are Tyranny gaunts. The little ones you get. I absolutely hate them. Can't stand them at all. And
why is that?
I try and take a paintbrush to them. I think I've got a great idea. I think it'll work. You just start and you're like, yes, I've done one gaunt. It's great. Now I've got to paint 29 more. Oh, I've got to paint 29 more.
Is it just because they're so small and they come in such?
There's so many of them. They're surprisingly detailed for the amount you need. Mm-hmm. I mean, for a horde unit, you've got to paint the claws, you've got to paint the teeth. There's the gun. There's a little piping on them. It's a surprising amount of detail for such a horde unit. And most of the time, you put them on the board. Someone shoots them. You just grab a dustpan brush, just brush them off, and put them back in the case. So for that effort you put into it, so it's like, well, they're not going to see a takeaway off it.
You might as well just put little tokens down or something.
I may as well just put down little cardboard cutouts and just call it a day. It's the exact same effect. They're not going to be there long.
It's interesting you mentioned about detail because I've been buying GW stuff for 20 years, and the detail that they're doing on the models now is absolutely superb. Have you noticed Have you noticed quite a marked improvement in the time that you've been buying and playing?
Yes. Recently, I've been painting up some older models from GW's Rangers, whatnot, and then, excuse me, and I've been recently painting up some Primaris Infiltrators, mm-hmm. and the amount of detail difference between the two is absolutely staggering. Just how far it's gone, because the older models I remember when I started were new, so I thought they were hyper detailed. Like if you compare a Space Marine Terminator to an Aggressor, the detail is absurd. How different it is, and how the Terminator is like 2004, 2005ish, something like that, and then the Aggressor is like 2018. The amount of the detail jump from that in that length of time, which when you think about it, is not a long amount of time. Not really. It's just amazing how much it just increases, and it's only getting better. Yeah, I mean the new stuff is just absolutely superb. I mean, it's great. I think the thing that puts me off is when I first got into GW, I used to collect Wood Elves. Used to get a box of Wood Elf archers, and it was literally one model. There was no bits that you had to add onto it or anything. It was just you put it into the base and that was it, right? The base and you're done. Spray it and you're done. Yeah. And like I mentioned before about skeletons, the reason I ended up giving up on the Order of Death, I still got a whole battle box to paint, but I felt I was trying to get through the skeletons, and it was just like putting the things together because legs, pelvis, bone, chest. I've not actually assembled the current GW skeletons. I've assembled the old ones, and I found the old ones also really fiddly to build. The team was one of the easiest things in the world because it was literally
Painting's easy.
yeah, it's just you're a skeleton. It's not hard. You spray it burn shade it, you dry brush it, you're done.
It's just the fact that they fall apart while you're dry brushing is not.
Oh, girls. I've had that. I've had that with models, and when it comes to the Lunar Spearmen, the spears are massive. They're huge. So it's just you're casually painting along. If you're grabbing a dry brush, you look at it and just think this is not going to go well. Something's going to go wrong.
And if you think it's going to go wrong, it always does. Right?
If anything can go wrong, it will.
Yeah. So, have you pre-ordered Indomitus?
Yes, I have.
And so you've been successful. Do you think you're going to be getting it this weekend?
Yes, I'll be getting it this weekend. I've managed to get 2 copies, but one's not one for me. One's for a friend of mine who was going to be able to get it. Then he's had some other things come up that require more attention than buying an Indomitus box. So I just thought, hey, have one of mine. So,
that's nice. Are you going to obviously? Goes without saying, you're going to be painting those space planes up pretty quickly.
Yes.
Are you going to be keeping the Netcons and possibly putting them?
I'm trading them for another half Marines.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who wants more Necrons, doesn't want his Marines. It just makes perfect sense. I want more Space Marines.
For me, it's like I'm just going to be using the Space Marines to be merged into my Space Wolf army.
Yes.
The Necrons, I think the builds on the Necrons are really, really good. So. And when I first got into 40k, it was either Space Wolf or Necron, and now I've just got the excuse to have Necrons as well.
You can do both now.
I can do both. Probably never get around to playing them, and if I do get around to playing them, as long as it's not a huge high point game. But what are you thinking of the new 9th edition rules, if you don't mind me asking?
The rule set itself, I think, for the most part, the changes and whatnot are absolutely great.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that the game's needed, especially. The additional terrain rules, whilst there's a lot of them and it's going to take time to get used to them, is going to be a good thing for the game overall. The new mission structures as well, how they play out, they're a lot better. The actually rewards movement, which is something I think the game has been missing for a fair few years. Positioning in 40k, for the most part, at least in my opinion, someone could probably say I'm wrong here. I don't think it matters. It's just like you just move your dudes across the table and you shoot some dudes, and that's it.
Yeah, sometimes
thinking about where you put your dudes now, it makes it adds a new layer to the game, and I think it's something that's needed to keep it interesting. Because awkward silence, I know, good times. There are a few things about the Nitro rules I'm not quite sure on. Mostly the morale rules, I think, are a bit. I don't know. They don't seem to really affect the game very much, even less so than they already did. So it seems like a bit of a backward step. It's almost as if they're getting to the point of they're thinking of getting rid of them, but they just can't for some reason. So they have to come up with something.
It's always that thing about they know no fear sort of thing.
Yes.
And if you have one faction which has that, and then it's like, why? How are you going to apply that to other factions? But then nothing can. Everyone pretty much is fearless. But the only ones who have actually something to fear are the mortals.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, in 40k, leadership has been an issue. But for the most part, it's been useless. I mean, for the most part, Marines don't care because unless you know fear. Chaos is high leadership. Necrons are undead robots. Why would they care? Tyranids are high. Orcs. Tyranids are high flying. Why would they care? Even Imperial Guard don't care. So you've got Commissars. Yeah. So they just sit back. The only races that seem to really care are Tau and Eldar, and even then, they still have ways to somewhat circumvent it.
Yeah, it does seem like a bit of a useless stage.
It's like a dumpster in an RPG. It's just something you just put a random number in and just call it a day.
Yeah,
you know you're not going to use it.
And speaking of RPGs, do you play any RPGs at all?
I haven't for years, but I mostly spend most of my younger years playing through the World of Darkness games. Oh. So things like Vampire, Werewolf, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
which were always good fun. It's always entertaining, especially if you have a GM who knows what they're doing, which 95% of the time I have. So
That's good. That's good.
so those have always been good times. I have played a few of the 40k RPGs as well,
Hmm.
and some of those are hard to get into, to be honest.
I think you really have to know the lore. I mean, I
You,
play D&D, and D&D is so Tolkien-esque. Or
Hmm.
everyone knows what an elf, and if you
yeah,
don't know the lore behind 40k, you have to really be into it.
yeah, there's so much of it as well. There's not for starting for lore 40k. There's not really a decent starting point. At least I don't think. Because even if you go start from the beginning, like say the Horus Heresy, massive. That's absolutely huge.
I didn't even know
So
that was a thing until a couple of years back.
yeah, that became its own game a fair few years ago,
Yeah.
which I've not played. I mean, as much as I like Marines, I don't really want to leave Space Marines myself. I'm okay.
It often
Um,
feels like 40k is kind of like your kill team to get roadblock.
yeah,
40k gets you hooked.
yes,
And when you want the ultimate high, you start going and spending a shed ton of money on Horus Heresy because only the resin casts you have it.
yes, absolutely. You make that jump, and plastic the resin, and then suddenly you start. Suddenly that's it.
Yeah, it's
You're
like,
up. You're up. That's good
like
now.
you don't have a family anymore or any friends, so you're just going to have to.
But it's like I had this paycheck. What happened to it? I don't know. But it was Warlord Titan. It was really good on my desk.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll pay it. I'll pay it one day.
Oh, have you actually got a Warlord Titan then?
No, I
All
don't.
right,
I, if I did,
probably
I
have
don't know
one
what I
less
do with it.
kidney.
Oh god, I would certainly be hurting. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Actually, go. I know you just mentioned Titans. One of the other, two of them actually, was the Dreadnoughts that you did, and one of them
Yes.
had quite an impressive, like almost like a snowy or base. But I'd never seen it done like that before. It's almost. I think it might have been Ash, and there's a lot of wear and tear on the Dreadnought as well.
Ah, right. That's the Invicta Warsuit. I know what you're on about now.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's one of the first painted models I did for another Space Marine army.
Hmm.
There's a pattern here, and that is also me experimenting with contrast on flat panels, and
Okay.
that's how I learned it doesn't work.
Yes.
So after I did all the bone and whatnot, I had to think to myself, I can't just strip this model. I put effort into it. The pilot's done, everything else is done. What do I do? So you take a sponge,
Hmm.
you dab it in brown, then dab it on, then metal. Do the same thing. It's chip paint.
Yeah. Same sort of thing.
And so, and it looks like it's been worn down. It's been
Yeah.
used a lot. It's currently in the field, and suddenly the mistake of flat areas of contrast on flat panels. It suddenly doesn't matter because
Yeah.
it's all chips.
That's good.
It's the whole thing of the Salvage entire model. I've got a second one on the way. I'm not sure whether I'm going to paint it clean or whether I'm going to do the same thing, but we'll see. We'll see when I get around to it.
It really stood out when I was flicking through the photos, and I've been meaning to ask that question a lot earlier. So I'm glad you mentioned about the Warlord Titan because that basically brought me full circle round to that question.
It just segued in perfectly.
Yes, it did. It did perfectly. And the final question I've got for you today is obviously you've been involved in the hobby for 14, 15 years now.
Yes.
For anyone new wanting to get into the Games Workshop brand, bear in mind there is quite a high price point. What advice would you give them if they wanted to do painting or to play?
The advice I'd give the most is definitely know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing that I had a major problem with when getting started in is I want everything. So I'll buy lots of things and lots of different things, and then I can't start playing because you've got too much stuff and you can't make a cohesive army out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go in knowing what you want, what you think is cool, which is the best way to get started, you don't think about whether it's going to be good or not. Just get into what you think is fun, what you think is cool. Buy that, stick with it till you've got something playable. Play with it, and then after that you can develop from there. So you can then take yourself from that point of do I like what I've got because it looks good, or do I want to expand more to the gaming side of it? Do I want to paint more? Do I want to keep these guys? Do I want to develop a narrative, etc., etc.? There's a lot of avenues to go down, and the main point is not falling into the traps. There's so many to fall into when it comes to starting this project. Yes, me. So have I. So have I. My extensive collection can attest to this.
Yes. I'm just going to make sure you don't see over that side of the road. Prophecy of the Wolf. A Star Trek Voyager that needs to be put together. And
Nice.
This weekend, an Indomitus is going to be going on that as well. Plus, I've got the Kill Team Elucidian Star Striders.
Yes.
The second Kill Team one. I've got that, and that's not been opened. 2 years.
Oh, wow. Fair enough.
2 years.
I think I've got a bunch of stuff that's still in the cellar vein. Just needs to be built and painted one day.
Mm-hmm.
It probably never will.
So on the other side, would you say that the codexes have enough information for you to get started? Because, like I say, I've got the Space Wolf Codex, and I know
Yes.
the Wolves, and I know Ragnar, and I know
Yeah.
Lucas Trickster and everything. And then I speak to other Space Wolf players and say, "Oh no, because blah 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 blah," and after the Battle of the Fang and everything. And I do feel like I'm like the poor relation to a lot of other Space Wolf players.
Yeah. I think the books in general, at least from background standpoints and whatnot at the time, because it's now an evolving story, which it hasn't been for a very long time. Nowadays, it's going to be more background and it's going to update more. So the codexes will no longer be able to tell you absolutely everything that's happened to that point. It will be to a point where the background is outdated because in the current Space Wolf Codex, Ragnar's not a Primaris, but now he is.
Yes,
That's an example of that. So more updates and whatnot will change those pieces of background and whatnot. I do also think there's a disparity between 40k codexes and Age of Sigmar battle tomes, because the battle tomes and whatnot, unlike 40k books, they have painting guides, and I think that's I know it's not necessarily related to the question of background and whatnot, but the painting guides in the Age of Sigmar books are actually really, really good.
Yeah.
They're a lot more in depth than what I thought they would be, and it's quite surprising that 40k books don't have them.
Yeah.
Unless they change it up to 9th, which would be nice.
So then you have to buy the codexes again.
Then you have to buy the codexes again. Yeah, that's the thing. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Absolutely vicious cycle. I have so many books from previous editions just sat in boxes, not doing anything.
Yeah.
I can't do anything with them because I can't really get rid of them. I don't know anyone who's going to buy them, so I've just got a bunch of books sat around in boxes that are never going to go rid again.
So going back to the trap, do you think the first trap that you fall into is getting into it in the first place?
Well,
it's a nice trap.
It's a trap in itself, but it's one you're getting into. There's just the other pitfalls.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I say, Dan, thank you ever so much for spending time and answering our questions and sharing your love of the hobby. Your love of your many Space Wolf, Space Marine legions. Have you actually decided which one you want, or are you still just collecting?
I'm just collecting.
15 years
I'm just
later,
I'm collecting. I just build and paint. That's it.
Yeah. Well, like I say, thank you ever so much for your time, and I'll look forward to speaking again on Discord and Twitter soon.
Absolutely. Take care.